The hum of the Galactic Confederation embassy on Xylos was a low, resonant thrum, a symphony of myriad species going about their diplomatic duties. Ambassador Cathar, a sentient silicate construct from the crystalline world of Geodea, found it endlessly fascinating. Each species contributed its unique sonic signature, the soft, rhythmic clicks of the arthropods from Hive Prime, the deep, resonating vocalizations of the mighty Groll, and the almost imperceptible whispers of the ethereal Lumina. All blended into a complex, harmonious drone that spoke of order, of interstellar cooperation, of a galaxy slowly but surely progressing towards an enlightened future. All, that is, except for the human element. Kethar's ocular cluster, a multifaceted array of polished quartz lenses, swiveled slightly towards the Human-Terran Alliance quadrant. There was no distinct hum, no characteristic atmospheric vibration, no predictable energy signature emanating from their sector. It was, simply put, quiet. A deep, unnerving quiet that, to Cathar's finely tuned perceptions, felt less like peace and more like the unnatural stillness before a planetary collapse. Humans. Cathar still struggled to reconcile the Confederation's classification of Deathworlder with the rather unassuming creatures he observed. Their ambassador, a female named Evelyn Reed, was currently engaged in what appeared to be a jovial conversation with Ambassador Flix of the Glorgon Collective. Flix, all 7 manipulators gesticulating wildly, seemed to be genuinely amused. Cathar had reviewed the Glorgon's psychological profiles. They were a species driven by strict hierarchical adherence and an almost pathological aversion to anything that threatened their meticulous order. Their laughter was a rare, almost unheard-of phenomenon, usually reserved for the absolute dismantling of a rival's political standing. Yet here was Flix, emitting bursts of chittering mirth, his chitinous exoskeleton vibrating with genuine amusement. Reed, for her part, simply smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips that Carr had come to associate with a peculiar human trait, understated confidence. He accessed the recent Confederation dossier on the Human-Terran Alliance. It was a file riddled with contradictions and bewildering data. Their homeworld, designated Earth, was a Class 7 Deathworld, a planetary categorization previously reserved for volatile gas giants or proto-stellar nurseries. Yet somehow, these fleshy, fragile beings had not only survived its brutal, unpredictable environment, but had thrived, expanding their reach to the stars in a remarkably short span of galactic history. The dossier highlighted numerous anomalies, physiological resilience, reports of humans enduring concussive forces that would shatter lesser species, regenerating from injuries deemed catastrophic, and possessing an almost ludicrous tolerance to a vast spectrum of toxins and pathogens. There was a particular incident during the Xylos incident 5 cycles ago, where a human security attaché had reportedly walked off a plasma discharge that had vaporized 3 centimeters of reinforced plus steel. The official report cited unexplained biological fortitude. Cathar's internal processors still flagged it as statistically improbable. Technological paradox. Their FTL drives, while adhering to known physics, consistently achieved higher velocity coefficients than theoretically possible for their energy output. Their defensive shields, particularly on their Dreadnought-class vessels, had shrugged off direct impacts from kinetic energy accelerators that could cleave a moonlet in half. And their weapon systems? Well, those were classified, shrouded in a veil of human-enforced secrecy that even the Confederation's formidable intelligence network had failed to penetrate. Strategic unpredictability. In the few instances of minor skirmishes, always initiated by other species, Cathar noted with a flicker of internal bewilderment, human tactical responses had been utterly illogical, yet devastatingly effective. They had deployed forces in formations that defied standard doctrine, attacked from vectors considered suicidal, and employed diversionary tactics that seemed to serve no purpose other than to confound and demoralize the enemy before the true assault began. Cathar focused his sensors on Ambassador Reed again. She was short by Xylosian standards, barely reaching his second highest ocular cluster, but there was an undeniable presence about her. Her clothing, a simple dark tunic and trousers, lacked the elaborate ornamentation common to most diplomatic attire, yet it seemed to draw the eye, emphasizing a subtle, understated power. Her dark hair was pulled back efficiently, revealing sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. Still pondering the Terrans, Ambassador Cathar, a voice chimed, startling him slightly. It was Ambassador Lyra, a gossamer-winged Allah from the airy gas giant of Zephyr 7, her voice a series of delicate, wind-chime tones. "Indeed, Ambassador Lyra," Cathar responded, his crystalline facets shifting to acknowledge her. "Their data remains an enigma." Lyra drifted closer, her translucent wings shimmering in the ambient light. "Ah, the Deathworlders. They are certainly unique. I heard an amusing tale from the Exilar delegation just yesterday. Apparently, one of their engineers, a female named Gwen, managed to fix a critical warp core stabilizer on a crippled Exilar cruiser using nothing but a multi-tool and a roll of tape." Her chime sounded almost like a giggle. Cathar processed the information. A multi-tool was a crude, primitive device by Sylar standards, and tape was a simple adhesive strip. The idea of such rudimentary items repairing a warp core stabilizer, a mechanism involving complex quantum entanglement fields, was beyond absurd. "The Exilar reported the cruiser fully operational?" he inquired. "Indeed," Lyra confirmed, her wings fluttering. Though the Exilar captain insisted on personally thanking the human, apparently in tears of bewildered gratitude. The Ambassador Flix, having concluded his exchange with Reed, now approached Cathar and Lyra. His chittering amusement had subsided, replaced by a more composed, albeit still impressed, demeanor. "Ambassador Reed was just explaining one of their Earth traditions," he buzzed, his head carapace tilting. "Something about competitive eating of spherical cakes filled with cream. Apparently, the human champion consumed over 30 units in a single sitting." Cathar's internal temperature regulators spiked slightly. 30 units of anything would be a biological impossibility for most species without suffering catastrophic organ failure. "And the purpose of this activity?" he asked, his vocalizer emitting a faint whir of processing. "For entertainment," Flix replied, his optical sensors widening slightly. "And for a prize, often a small metallic trophy." He then lowered his tone, almost conspiratorially. "She mentioned that the champion was a grandmother, a matriarch, Cathar, of advanced Terran age, who subsequently volunteered for a planetary construction project involving heavy lifting." Cathar remained silent, his core processors working overtime. Entertainment, a grandmother, heavy lifting. It defied all known logic and biological limitations for a species deemed fragile. The silence in the human sector of the embassy suddenly felt less peaceful and more like a contained force, a coiled spring waiting for the precise moment to unleash its peculiar, illogical, and utterly devastating power. He looked at Ambassador Reed again, who was now calmly sipping from a small cylindrical container, a coffee she had once explained, a dark, bitter stimulant. Her eyes met his across the vast, echoing atrium, and for a fleeting moment, Cathar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the embassy's climate control. It was the chill of the unknown, of a variable that refused to be quantified, a species that defied all predictions. The Confederation had, perhaps, made a grave miscalculation by inviting humanity into their fold, not because they were aggressive or overtly dangerous in a conventional sense, but because they were unpredictable. And in a galaxy built on predictable order, unpredictability was the most dangerous variable of all. Cathar found himself wondering, with a strange mix of apprehension and scientific curiosity, what other Earth traditions lay hidden beneath that calm human exterior, and what would happen when the rest of the galaxy truly began to understand them. The Galactic Confederation's primary communications network, a sprawling, intricate web of quantum-entangled conduits and hyperspace relays, rarely experienced disruptions. Its architects, the meticulous and hyper-efficient Thari, had engineered it to near perfection. So when the central embassy nexus on Xylos began emitting erratic diagnostic pulses, a ripple of unease spread through the diplomatic corps. Ambassador Cathar, still processing the baffling information about human cake-eating champions, received an urgent summons to the Grand Council chamber. He arrived to find a gathering of senior ambassadors, their varied forms radiating concern. Grand Speaker Xylon, a venerable multi-limbed being whose species communicated through complex bioluminescent patterns, glowed with an unusual agitated rhythm. "We have a problem." Xylon's modulated voice resonated through the chamber's translation arrays. "A severe, unforeseen anomaly. The Vathari report indicates a data spore incursion within the central Xylosian nexus, a highly aggressive, self-replicating algorithm that is corrupting data packets and eroding firewall integrity at an alarming rate. A collective gasp, or its equivalent in various alien physiologies, swept through the room. Data spores were a theoretical threat, a nightmare scenario of digital contagion. They were thought to be remnants of ancient rogue AI conflicts contained and eradicated millennia ago. The idea that one had manifested here in the heart of the Confederation's diplomatic hub was chilling. How did it penetrate? Buzzed Ambassador Eflix, his optical sensors flickering nervously. Unknown, replied the Vathari representative, a sleek columnar being whose voice was a precise, synthesized cadence. Our firewalls were state-of-the-art. It appears to have exploited a micro-fracture in a rarely used auxiliary port. It then adapted, mutating with incredible speed. Our standard antiviral protocols are ineffective. Its replication rate is exponential. Exponential? Lyra chimed, her wings fluttering with distress. How long until the entire Xylosian nexus is compromised, and then the interstellar network? At current rates, the Vathari stated, a hint of digital tremor in its voice, the Xylosian network will be fully compromised within 8 standard hours. Interstellar propagation is estimated to begin within 36 hours. Panic began to rise. A galaxy-wide communications blackout, even for a short period, would be catastrophic, halting trade, disrupting vital planetary defense grids, and plunging trillions into information darkness. Can we isolate the Nexus? Cathar inquired, his logic circuits whirring. Negative, the Vathari responded. The spore has already begun to anchor itself across multiple core processors. A forced shutdown would cause irreparable data loss and potentially fracture the core itself, making future repairs impossible. A heavy silence descended. No one spoke. For the first time, Carr felt a distinct chill, unrelated to human peculiarities. This was a genuine threat, one their advanced technology and meticulously ordered societies had no immediate answer for. Then a clear, calm voice cut through the despair. Excuse me. All eyes, or their equivalents, turned to Ambassador Evelyn Reed. She stood slightly apart from the other delegates, her posture relaxed, almost casual, in stark contrast to the palpable tension. Grand Speaker Xylon's bioluminescence shifted to a questioning pattern. Ambassador Reed, Xylon articulated slowly, do you have a query? More of an observation, Grand Speaker, Reed said, her eyes scanning the data projections of the data spore's insidious growth. You said it exploits microfractures, adapts, and replicates exponentially, correct? And that standard antiviral protocols are ineffective because it mutates too fast? The Vathari representative turned its primary sensor towards her. That is correct, human. Your species has no known expertise in advanced data forensics. Perhaps you have a conceptual understanding. A faint smile touched Reed's lips. It was the same smile Carr had observed earlier with Afflix, quiet, knowing. We have quite a bit of experience with things that replicate exponentially and mutate, Representative. We call them viruses, biological ones. The chamber remained silent, the alien ambassadors exchanging confused glances. What relevance did primitive biological pathogens have to an advanced digital threat? Reed continued, walking towards the central display where the spore's chaotic growth was visualized. On Earth, we've been battling biological viruses for millennia. They mutate, they evolve, they bypass our defenses. We've learned a few things. 1, brute force rarely works long-term. 2, you can't out-mutate a fast mutator with more mutations. 3, sometimes the most effective solution isn't another complex program, but something disruptive. She paused, looking at the Vathari. Do you have a way to introduce a controlled, chaotic element into the network? Something that isn't a program, but a stream of pure, unfiltered, non-sequential data? Like noise. The Vathari representative processed this. We employ algorithmic noise for obfuscation and data scrubbing, yes. But a continuous stream of uncontrolled static would corrupt the network further, faster than the spore itself. Precisely, Reed agreed to the visible bewilderment of the other species. But what if that noise wasn't static? What if it was meaningless to your systems, but disruptive to the spore's very architecture? Something so utterly illogical and unpredictable that the spore can't pass it, can't incorporate it, and can't mutate around it. Kthar felt a strange prickling sensation in his core. This was the human unpredictability he had observed. Illogical, unconventional, potentially insane. Ambassador Reed, Xylon's patterns flickered with caution. What are you suggesting? Reed turned, her gaze sweeping over the assembled dignitaries. I'm suggesting we blast the data spore with the most chaotic, non-sequential, and utterly illogical data stream we have access to. Something with no pattern, no purpose, no discernible structure. Something so uniquely human that nothing else in the galaxy could comprehend or replicate it. And what, precisely, is this uniquely human data stream? The Vathari representative asked, its synthesized voice tinged with what sounded like digital skepticism. Ambassador Reed smiled, a wide, genuine, almost mischievous grin. We call it the Intergalactic Cat Video Archive, version 7.3, she stated simply. Billions of hours of unfiltered, unindexed, highly compressed and wildly varied visual and auditory data featuring a specific terrestrial fauna, guaranteed to make absolutely no sense to any logical algorithm and pure unadulterated chaos to anything attempting to establish a pattern. A stunned silence fell upon the Grand Council chamber. Cathar's internal processors nearly overheated, attempting to correlate feline imagery with data spore eradication. Eflix's optical sensors rotated independently in confusion. Lyra's wings drooped in utter bewilderment. You propose to flood our network with moving images of cats? Xylon's patterns pulsed in disbelief. Think of it as an anti-pattern bomb, Reed explained calmly, undeterred by the universal stupefaction. The data spore's strength is its ability to find and exploit patterns, to integrate. What if it encounters something so utterly devoid of a coherent pattern to it that its internal logic simply crashes? It can't replicate what it can't understand, it can't assimilate what has no structure, and it can't mutate around a stream of pure illogical randomness, particularly when that randomness is being thrown at it at maximum bandwidth. The Vathari representative emitted a series of rapid, high-pitched clicks, its internal diagnostic systems running simulations at light speed. After a moment, its voice returned, slightly more hesitant. The theoretical efficacy is infinitesimally small. The risk of further system corruption is astronomical. Or, Reed countered, leaning forward slightly, her eyes bright, it's the only thing that will work because it's the one thing it can't process. You're trying to fight a fire with more fire. We're suggesting you fight it with water. Illogical, utterly ridiculous, purring, pouncing, laser pointer chasing water. Grand Speaker Xylon's bioluminescent patterns cycled through indecision. The Vathari, for all their logic, had no solution. The alternative was a galactic communications collapse. The human suggestion was ludicrous. But perhaps, sometimes the most illogical solution was the only one that worked. Very well, Ambassador Reed, Xylon finally decided, its patterns settling into a resolute glow. You have 8 standard hours. Engage your intergalactic cat video archive. For the sake of the Confederation, let us pray your feline data is as disruptive as you claim. Reed simply nodded, that knowing smile returning. Cathar, watching her leave the chamber with an almost spring in her step, felt a new wave of apprehension. He had spent cycles trying to understand humanity through data and observation. Now it seemed he was about to witness firsthand the power of their utter, baffling, chaotic unpredictability. And he wasn't sure if the galaxy was ready for it. The control room within the Human-Terran Alliance quadrant of the embassy was a stark contrast to the panic-stricken Grand Council chamber. Here, under the calm direction of Ambassador Reed, technicians, some still munching on what appeared to be dried salted fish snacks, moved with quiet efficiency. The Vathari representative, initially hesitant, now stood beside Reed, its primary sensor array directed at the main holographic display, which glowed with a chaotic maelstrom of light and data. Initiate Phase 1 dispersal, Reed commanded, her voice steady. A young human technician, no older than 30 Earth cycles, nodded. Engaging Feline Fury Sub-Protocol, Ambassador, the tech replied, fingers flying across a console. Mass injection of perfect mayhem packet streams across all non-critical embassy nodes, beginning with the classic If It Fits, I Sits collection. On the Vathari display, the intricate, venomous red tendrils of the data spore, previously replicating with terrifying speed, suddenly shuddered. Its tendrils, which had been expanding outwards in a seemingly unstoppable geometric progression, began to flicker. Cathar, observing from a secure viewing chamber with Grand Speaker Xylon and a few other senior ambassadors, felt a strange sensation. The Xylosian network's usual coherent hum was now overlaid with something utterly alien. It wasn't static, not precisely, but a bizarre, incoherent cacophony of fragmented imagery and nonsensical sounds. On the main Confederation monitoring screen, the dataspore's digital representation began to convulse. What the Vathari had designed as a sophisticated pattern-recognizing, self-replicating algorithm was now confronted with a creature attempting to squeeze itself into a box clearly too small. Then another, batting playfully at a swinging light fixture. Then an entire montage of fluffy four-legged beings suddenly startled by a cucumber. The sounds that accompanied these visuals, high-pitched meows, purrs, indignant chirps, and the occasional human exclamations of awe or "oh no, mittens," combined to form a data stream of pure, unadulterated, unpassable chaos. The Vathari representative, observing the holographic display, began emitting a series of low, discomforted clicks. The spore's internal logic structures are struggling. Its replication rate has slowed, dramatically. It is attempting to categorize the incoming data, but it cannot. It is rejecting the packets. Reed nodded. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose of raw, unadulterated nonsense. The spore thrives on structure, on finding patterns to exploit. When you bombard it with billions of hours of a domestic predator falling off furniture, it can't find a pattern, can't integrate the data. Its processing power is being overwhelmed just trying to make sense of it. "Increase saturation, Corporal Jenkins," Reed called out. "Aye, Ambassador," the technician chirped back. "Engaging Kitten Kaboom protocol. Injecting random frames from the Cats vs. Laser Pointers series, cross-referenced with feeder dispenser mishaps and the Great Hairball Debate lectures. Maximum bandwidth." The effect was immediate and dramatic. The red tendrils of the data spore writhed wildly on the display, contracting rather than expanding. It was as if the digital entity was screaming. Its elegant, parasitic structure began to fragment, breaking down not into smaller, replicating spores, but into inert, unreadable data chunks that faded into the system's background. "It's recoiling," the Vathari representative exclaimed, its voice rising in disbelief. "Its primary assimilation algorithms are failing. It is shedding corrupted data. Its core signature is destabilizing." Within minutes, what had been a vibrant, menacing red plague across the Xylosian network rapidly turned into a weak, pulsating orange, then flickered to yellow, then faded to a sickly green, before finally dissolving entirely. The main holographic display cleared, returning to the Confederation's clean, organized network topology. The emergency diagnostic pulses ceased. The embassy's quiet hum returned, but this time it was truly peaceful. A stunned silence filled the viewing chamber where Thar stood. Grand Speaker Xylon's bioluminescence patterns cycled through an astounding array of colors, disbelief, wonder, and finally, a profound sense of relief. Flix chittered, not with amusement, but with sheer, unadulterated awe. The Vathari representative, having raced back to the council chamber, addressed the assembled delegates, its voice a synthesized whisper of astonishment. "The data spore. It is eradicated. Completely. The human methodology, while utterly unorthodox, was effective. Our sensors indicate no residual presence. The network is secure." A collective wave of relief, like a physical tremor, passed through the chamber. Whispers broke out, quickly escalating into animated chatter. The crisis was averted, the galaxy was safe, and it was all thanks to feline videos. Cathar felt his internal processes churning. This defied every logical framework he possessed. It wasn't sophisticated cyber warfare, it wasn't a complex algorithmic countermeasure, it was quite literally overwhelming a highly advanced digital threat with visual and auditory absurdity. It was fighting precision with chaos, it was fighting intelligence with cats. Ambassador Reed entered the chamber, her expression a mix of quiet satisfaction and professional calm, as if she had merely filed a routine report. She carried a small furry toy cat in one hand, dangling it by its tail. "A small memento from the archive," she said, her eyes twinkling slightly as she caught Cathar's bewildered gaze. "Turns out some things just can't compute, especially when they're tripping over their own paws." Grand Speaker Xylon's patterns settled into a warm, inviting glow. "Ambassador Reed, the Confederation owes the Human-Terran Alliance a debt of immense gratitude. Your unorthodox approach has saved our network, and perhaps the stability of the entire galactic community. Reed nodded politely. Just doing our part, Grand Speaker. We've always found that sometimes you just got to throw the whole toolbox at a problem, even if half of it is filled with utterly ridiculous implements. She paused, then added, almost as an afterthought, though next time perhaps we'll try the Human Toddler Tantrum archive. That one's usually a reliable circuit breaker. Another wave of confusion rippled through the aliens, but it was now tinged with a newfound hesitant respect. The humans were indeed unpredictable, dangerous even, not in their aggression, but in their sheer baffling ingenuity. Cathar realized with a startling clarity that humanity wasn't just a variable, they were an anti-variable, a force that could dismantle logic simply by existing. And the galaxy, for all its millennia of ordered evolution, had just been saved by a species whose greatest weapon appeared to be pure, unadulterated absurdity. The news of Viridia's salvation rippled through the Galactic Confederation like a shockwave, leaving in its wake not just relief, but a profound and unsettling awe. The visual feeds from the ravaged planet, showing vast swaths of sterile, unblemished ground encircling islands of barely clinging life, became the focal point of every galactic news network. Pundits debated, was this brutal efficiency a testament to humanity's genius, or a chilling demonstration of their callous disregard for lesser life? In the Grand Council chamber, Grand Speaker Cylon's bioluminescence remained a muted, thoughtful glow. The Viridian delegation, having escaped total extinction by the narrowest of margins, publicly lauded humanity as their saviors, their gratitude tinged with a visible tremor. Yet even in their effusive praise, there was a new distance, a newfound wariness. They had witnessed a survival instinct so raw, so uncompromising, that it transcended their own understanding of compassion. Ambassador Cathar, deeply embedded in the diplomatic currents, found himself overwhelmed by the sheer volume of data and conflicting opinions. His processors spun, trying to reconcile the image of a species that reveled in silly cat videos with one that would surgically excise life from a planet to save it. They were a kaleidoscope of contradictions, each facet more baffling than the last. He heard whispers of species debating whether humanity was a valuable ally or potential existential threat to galactic norms. The Vithari, ever the pragmatists, were now frantically dissecting the human methodology. Their understanding of biological systems is primitive, yet profoundly deep, one Vithari report concluded. They possess an intuitive grasp of evolutionary vectors, which, combined with their disregard for conventional biocontainment ethics, makes them terrifyingly effective. The Vorlag Imperium, however, remained openly hostile. Vorlag Prime's protests to the Grand Council grew louder, more insistent. "This is not salvation," it boomed, its voice echoing through the chamber. "This is planetary amputation. The Terrans did not cure the planet. They mutilated it. This victory is a testament to their barbarism, not their benevolence. They have proven themselves incapable of nuanced, ordered solutions." Ambassador Reed, still showing signs of exhaustion from the Viridian mission, stood calmly. "We saved the patient, Ambassador. Even if the surgery was aggressive, the alternative was a cadaver. The Confederation cannot allow such methods to become precedent," Vorlag Prime thundered. "Their very presence destabilizes delicate balance of our society. We propose a formal containment protocol for the Human-Terran Alliance. Their unpredictable nature is a hazard." A collective gasp swept through the chamber. A containment protocol was a severe measure, usually reserved for aggressive expansionist species that posed a direct military threat. To propose it for a species that had just saved 2 planets was unprecedented. Grand Speaker Xylon's patterns pulsed with displeasure. "Ambassador Vorlag Prime, your accusations are grave. The Terrans acted with the full consent of the Grand Council on both occasions, and their interventions were successful where our own failed." "Successful, yes, but at what cost to galactic order?" Vorlag Prime countered, its voice dripping with contempt. "They fight digital viruses with children's amusements. They save planets with biological scorched earth policies. They resolve disputes by invalidating all claims. Their solutions are aberrations. They cannot be trusted." It paused, its gaze sweeping across the other ambassadors. "Unless you wish your own systems, your own planets, your own claims to be subjected to their logic of chaos?" A murmur spread through the chamber. The Vorlag had struck a nerve. While many were grateful, the idea of having their own carefully constructed societies subjected to humanity's utterly alien logic was indeed disquieting. Reed stepped forward, her calm demeanor giving way to a steely gaze. "Ambassador Vorlag Prime," she began, her voice low but piercingly clear, "you talk of order, but your order led to the brink of galactic war over resources and to the slow, agonizing death of Viridia. Our chaos averted those disasters. Perhaps your order is simply too rigid to survive. You insult the very foundations of the Confederation," Vorlag Prime thundered, "and you ignore the evidence of your own censors." Reed shot back, her voice gaining an edge. "We don't seek to impose our ways, but when your order breaks and lives are on the line, we will do what is necessary. And if that makes us dangerous to your comfort, then perhaps your comfort is what's truly dangerous." The tension in the chamber was palpable. The Vorlag had finally openly declared humanity anathema, and humanity, for its part, had refused to back down, instead throwing the Vorlag's own rigid doctrines back in their face. Cathar felt a profound sense of understanding solidify within his core processors. The Vorlag, in their predictable desire for control, had not accounted for one critical aspect of humanity, their absolute refusal to be contained. They might be baffling, illogical, and sometimes terrifying, but they were also unyielding. They possessed a deep-seated, almost primordial resistance to being told what they could or could not do, especially when lives were at stake. This trait, forged on a Deathworld where survival meant defying the impossible, was perhaps their most potent and most volatile weapon. The containment protocol, Cathar realized, would not contain humanity. It would merely force them to unleash another, perhaps even more formidable aspect of their unpredictable nature. The Veil of Cygnus was a cosmic maelstrom, a swirling tempest of ionized gas, exotic radiation, and rogue gravitational eddies that tore conventional vessels apart. Within this chaotic beauty, the Phantom, humanity's experimental stealth recon vessel, was less a ship and more a whisper. Its hull, coated in a light-absorbing metamaterial, shimmered faintly against the vibrant Nebula backdrop, utterly invisible to all but the most specialized active scans. Even then, Ambassador Cathar, seated in a secure, remote terminal deep within the Terran quadrant of the embassy, worked feverishly, a digital ghost orchestrating their clandestine passage. Gravitic anomaly surge detected. Cathar's synthesized voice, strained but precise, crackled over the Phantom's comms. "It will deflect your current trajectory by 0.07 degrees. Compensate immediately, Commander Sharma, or you will intersect a neutron star remnant in 4.3 seconds. Inside the Phantom's cockpit, Commander Anya Sharma's fingers flew across her controls, her face a mask of intense concentration. The ship groaned, its inertia dampeners screaming under the strain as she executed a micro-correction that would have flatlined any non-human pilot. "Compensated, Ambassador. Good call. That was a tight one." "It's getting thicker out here, Reed," Sharma reported to Ambassador Evelyn Reed, who was monitoring the mission from the embassy's Secure Ops Center. "Radiation levels spiking. Stealth systems holding, but it's a constant battle. That Starweaver better be worth it." "It is, Commander," Reed replied, her gaze fixed on the telemetry. She could feel the tension, even from light years away. This was the ultimate test of human ingenuity and resilience, played out in the galaxy's deadliest cosmic arena. Cathar's terminal flared with a warning. "Confederation patrol vessel, designation Purity of Order, on an intercept course. Its deep scan array is activating. They will detect you within 17.2 seconds. "Cathar!" Reed barked, her voice sharp. "Engaging countermeasures." Cathar's voice was a frantic hum, his silicate tendrils dancing over his console. He unleashed a torrent of false data, complex, yet utterly meaningless sub-quantum noise, masking the Phantom's real signature. It was the digital equivalent of a massive interstellar cat video dump, but far more intricate. "They are attempting to pass the anomaly. Their internal processors are struggling. They are diverting resources to analyze Phantom sensor ghosts. Time to detection, 4.1 minutes and extending." "Brilliant, Cathar," Sharma yelled, seizing the moment. "We're going for the visual, taking us in manual." The Phantom plunged deeper into the nebula, guided by Sharma's uncanny spatial awareness and Commander Gia's tactical support from the co-pilot's seat. Soon, the derelict form of the Star Weaver materialized through the shimmering haze, A ghost ship, listing dangerously, its hull punctured by micrometeoroids and radiation burns. "We have visual contact, Ambassador," Gia confirmed, his voice grim. "Life support readings are non-existent, but the data core integrity is holding, just barely." The challenge was getting the data. The Starweaver was too close to the singularity for direct boarding. A small, armored human drone designed for extreme environments was launched. It crawled across the Starweaver's ravaged hull, its manipulator arms working with painstaking precision to interface with the exposed data ports. "Gravitational singularity acting up again," Sharma warned. "Pulling us closer. Its field is fluctuating unpredictably." "Cathar, any way to dampen it?" Reed asked. "Negative, Ambassador," Cathar replied, his voice strained. "Its behavior is truly chaotic. My predictive models are failing. You are on your own here." It was a terrifying confirmation, the true unknown. Humanity was now entirely reliant on its own resilience and ingenuity. "Drone connection unstable," the tech monitoring the drone cried. "Losing data packets, too much interference." Sharma gritted her teeth. "All right, Commander Gia, we're going to use the Phantom itself as a relay. Get us as close as you can without getting pulled in. We'll take the hit." Against all reason, Sharma nudged the Phantom perilously close to the Starweaver, the gravity distortion threatening to tear their own ship apart. The hull shrieked, alarms blared, and the ship's lights flickered, but the connection stabilized. Data streamed rapidly, desperately, into the Phantom's secured drives. "Data transfer 98%. The tech yelled. 99%! Complete! We have it, Ambassador!" "Extract!" Reed ordered, relief washing over her. "Get out of there, Commander." Sharma, fighting the relentless pull of the singularity, expertly maneuvered the Phantom away. They had done it. They had snatched the vital data from the maw of certain destruction, operating entirely outside the Confederation's knowledge. Days later, back in the Confederation embassy, a ripple of astonishment spread through the diplomatic corps. The lost data from the Starweaver had mysteriously reappeared in the Central Confederation archives, fully restored, complete, and with no discernible source. There were no logs of a successful recovery mission, no trace of a vessel having entered the Veil of Cygnus and returned. Grand Speaker Xylon convened an emergency session. "The data from the Starweaver has been recovered. Its reappearance is unexplained. We have no record of any vessel completing the mission." The Vathari, their analytical systems in overdrive, confirmed the data's authenticity. It is genuine, fully intact. It is as if the Starweaver itself somehow uploaded its data from the very edge of the singularity, then ceased to exist. Vorlag Prime was apoplectic. Its optical sensors flashed with barely contained fury. This is another Terran aberration. They were the only ones capable of such a feat, yet there is no record. They defy protocol. They operate in the shadows. This is proof of their subversive nature. They mock our order. Ambassador Reed stood in the chamber, her expression utterly neutral. She exchanged a fleeting, almost imperceptible glance with Ambassador Cathar, who subtly adjusted his posture, his internal workings purring with quiet satisfaction. "Ambassador Vorlag Prime," Reed stated calmly, addressing the flustered Vorlag, "the data is recovered. A galactic catastrophe has been averted. Is that not the primary objective?" Vorlag Prime roared a frustrated, inarticulate sound. It knew the humans were responsible, but it had no proof, no evidence to condemn them. Their trap, designed to expose humanity's recklessness, had only revealed another, even more infuriating facet of their unpredictability, their ability to achieve the impossible, entirely off the grid, leaving no trace. Cathar watched the Vorlag's sputtering rage, a deep sense of satisfaction humming through his silicate form. He reflected on his journey with humanity. He had started by classifying them as an enigma, then observed their illogical solutions, witnessed their unbreakable will, and now had participated in their calculated subversion. They were not just a variable. They were the ultimate anti-variable, a force that could navigate chaos, turn absurdity into strategy, and bend reality to their will, often by simply refusing to play by the rules. The galaxy now understood, even if it couldn't articulate, that humanity wasn't just a powerful new member of the Confederation. They were something far more profound, a species forged in the fires of a Deathworld, whose very essence was to defy limits, to find a way, to improvise with terrifying ingenuity, and to embrace the impossible as merely another Tuesday. Their solutions would always be baffling, their methods always unconventional, and their presence in the galaxy would forever be the ultimate beautiful and utterly unpredictable echo of the Phantom. The universe would never be boring again. The Phantom vanished into myth. The Confederation searched for proof. There was none, only silence and results. Thank you for watching Beyond the Nebula. If you enjoyed this tale of shadow ops and impossible odds, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another drop of Deathworld defiance. Got theories? Favorite moments? Drop them in the comments. And if you believe humanity always finds a way, share this story with a fellow sci-fi fan. Let them hear what happens when the rules break and the Terrans show up. Until next time, stay sharp, stay defiant, and remember, Deathworlders don't follow paths. We carve them.